ask you, these are supercomputers. How will these normal computers, which lag about 10 years, how will that appear to us? How will we see ourselves on the forward slopes of the singularity? And the obvious answer is, firstly, we're going to see a lot more automation. We're going to see things like this. That's one of my robots, which is an underground load-haul dump vehicle. Drives autonomously down tunnels underground, scooping up 15 tons of rock, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all conditions, doesn't care if it gets hurt. This type of thing is going to become more and more prevalent. Probably a better example than mine, which we saw recently, was this little fellow, which, hands up, who saw this land on Mars just recently, and that was a pretty spectacular feat. Of course, in the background of this, we had this thing here, ostensibly called a control room. And in that we had lots of these NASA engineers all beavering away looking at the thing. People probably watched it. And as the telemetry came back from the device, eventually when they said, yep, it's on Mars, they all cheered and yelled and waved their hands. The odd thing is, why is that called a control room? Those people had no control whatsoever. It took 14 minutes for the signal from Mars to reach Earth. That thing had to do its aerobraking maneuver, the hypersonic parachutes, the back shell dispersion, landing, sky crane maneuver, identification of landing area, totally autonomously, and in 7 minutes. It was all done and dusted. By the time these people even knew that that thing was hitting the surface of Mars, hitting the atmosphere, that thing was either dead or alive on the surface. They had no control whatsoever. Now, of course, if you laid odds, and people were doing this prior to the landing, they were saying, oh, that's pretty complicated. Because it was complicated. There were thousands of systems that had to work in concert for that thing to get down safely. Thousands of things that could go wrong. But it didn't go wrong. And you're going to increasingly see automated systems that don't go wrong, that work in a preternaturally, almost superhuman manner and get the job done. That's, I like that picture just for the inordinate number of Macintoshes that you see that NASA people are tending to use. All right, let's move on. So we'll see a prevalence of autonomous type systems in all walks of industry. Now, I've just thrown a few of them out. So you're probably all aware that Foxconn, Chinese employer, a Taiwanese company employing hundreds of thousands of people, hit by a few questions recently on worker conditions, but they made an announcement that they're going to put in over 1 million robots. Now, it's perfectly understandable why they make these sort of things, and typically, when these come through an assembly line, 50% of them get rejected when they come off the end of the line, because there's a pixel dead on the screen, or 1 or 2 pixels. So anything they can do to cut that number down is extremely worthwhile to them, as well as upping their profile. But you have to say, when a company in China, with the Chinese labour costs that they are, is starting to look at robots, you have to think, oh, that's a bit of a worry. What happens to the rest of us? And of course, you've got the Predator drones, which are extremely effective now. There are now more US pilots training to fly drones than there are flying real aircraft. That's an interesting and recent milestone in the last few years. Share trading systems, high volume trading, high frequency trading, increasingly being done by computers, simply because people can't keep up. They can't maintain the time required, the knowledge required, and they can't work 24 hours a day over all the market. But computers can. So we're going to see this massive increase in technology on all fronts, all underpinned by computers. It'll be 3D printing, brain control interfaces, automatic laboratories, face detection, mobile computing, quantum computing, Facebook. All of these things are providing radical sociological and technological changes. And it's happening now, and we are at some point on the foothills of that slope. We don't know where, but we're on it. And the speakers during this seminar will, some of them may venture to say when we're going to be past that event horizon, at point of no return. So the question is, why is this important to us? I mean, the obvious one, we've got our own desires, we've got our own concerns, we need to be employed, we want our kids to be employed. But I want to step back a little bit and talk about why I personally am concerned. I'm going to introduce you to this little fella here. This is Picaei glaciaris, which is a member of the chordate family. In fact, it's the earliest member of the chordate family that we found. It was found at the Burgess Shale, Canada, in about 1911. Now, that's a chordate. It means it has a backbone or a little neural cord along the back and ribs, striated muscles like we have. This creature may actually be, this one here that we're looking at, our great to the 20,000 grandfather. Right? This actual creature, which lived 500,000 years ago, may actually be everyone in this room's forefather. This very one here. This may in fact be your grandfather. Now that creature lived in a kind of warm sea 500 million years ago. It had a life. It avoided predators. It related to its own kind, hence we're here. It did things, probably not much, and from our perspective, its life is irrelevant other than as a form of curiosity and possibly well done breadware. But the point is, in the next 20, 30 years, we are going to have systems that are as far above us in intellectual capacity as we are above this, as we are above chordata. And what that means is, if we want our lives to be relevant, if we want Shakespeare, our literature, our art, our music, the very things that we do to have relevance to those creatures in the future, whoever they are, our ancestors, or whether they be an entirely new species, then we have to start planning now to affect them, to give them a start. And hence, I see relevance as being the core issue of why we should be involved. Okay, so say goodbye to your grandfather. That's all for me. Not going to take questions. And Adam will then pass you on to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you.